Well, it's probably not that safe to be out here right now. Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Do it. Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen. It is way less exciting when there's not a live studio audience, but regardless, it is April 5th, 2020, Season 4, Episode 14. And with me today is Andrew Torres. Andrew, how's it going?
It's going fantastic, Eric. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Oh, dude, I have been wanting to have you on since before this show started. Back before.
Well, now there's nowhere I can go, so
we locked you down. So before Talk Heathen was even a thing, I reached out to you when I was trying to start a podcast, and we had a great conversation that stuck with me. And ever since then, man, it's been awesome getting to know you as a person. But for people who don't know you, Andrew, who are you?
All right. Well, I am Andrew Torres. I co-host the Opening Arguments podcast. By profession, I am a lawyer. But like you've had my buddy Andrew Seidel on from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, right? And there are lawyers in the atheist community that deal with First Amendment issues and that are sort of on the front lines. That's not me. I represent small businesses. I just have a normal legal practice. I represent a lot of podcasts, which is a little bit weird.
LLC.
But so what I try to do is normalize that, right? Like I'm an atheist lawyer, like small a, small l, in the same way that you might have your local Christian business, and so that's sort of my part of visibility. And my show, Opening Arguments, is designed to take legal questions and issues that are in the news and sort of break them down for a non-legal audience, which there are a lot of legal stories in the news. We started in August of 2016, so we had a slightly different view that, I'll leave it at that.
Well, so the thing is before ever doing shows, I was a huge fan and still am a huge fan. I followed Thomas back when he was doing Thomas in the Bible. And so when
that's how I met Thomas. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you started Opening Arguments, I was right there following along. And I think you're selling yourself criminally short, my friend. Because one thing that I deeply consider you to be an exemplar of, you did not mention at all. And that is, you are a great communicator and teacher, especially when it comes to law. Every time something has come through the Supreme Court, every single time there have been major laws that have been tried to be passed that have tried to break down the barrier between religion and government, I know that I'm going to hop on the podcast and the next episode, you're going to be talking about exactly what it is. And you get down to the nitty gritty. People who listen to your podcast actually have a better understanding of constitutional law, and that informs one of the big reasons why I'm so excited to have you on today. And that is because we had a caller. Do you happen to remember the caller from last week?
Oh yeah. So first, as long as you're embarrassing me, I listen to your show every week, and and it's why, and I love what you do. I love engaging with live callers. Not something we do on Opening Arguments. But yeah, you had a gentleman named T.E. who called in to share, and I want to be clear about this. Absolute nonsense. David Barton's pseudo history about the U.S. being historically a Christian nation. And your response, I think was a good response from a lay perspective, right? Was to be like, look, let me grant your argument. I don't care about history as constraining us because, right, historically the U.S. has done a horrible lot of stuff. Yeah, right, exactly. But I want to be clear that from a legal perspective, his argument was nonsense, was garbage from start to finish. So,
well, I want to.
That's a legal term, by the way.
Well, if you want to go into a little bit more, I really do want to help inform the audience so that if Uncle Joe, decides that they want to start talking about how this has always been a Christian nation, maybe we can help arm those people who are having to sit across the table with real information. So, is there anything about that you wanted to share?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go super quickly because the best part of the show is getting to callers, and people are already going to try and fast forward over this part. But I do think it's important because there is an Orwellian 1984 style effort to rewrite history, to take what is very obviously a secular country founded on secular principles and rewrite that history as if it was based on Christian ideals. It's not true. So I want to start off with steel manning TE's argument, right? What he said was, it's okay to teach the Bible in public schools today because the First Amendment doesn't provide for the separation of church and state. If that were true, that would have profound consequences, but it is not true. Okay. He made two arguments on the show, as I understand them. The first was that the First Amendment doesn't say separation of church and state. That's 100% true, but 100% irrelevant, right? The First Amendment doesn't say television. It doesn't say internet, right? What the Constitution does is it enshrines principles, right? And then case law helps us determine how to apply those principles 200 years later, right? So the First Amendment, as you pointed out, says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Now, there are two ways that we could go about figuring out what respecting an establishment of religion is, right? Like, we could just make stuff up and say, well, to respect religion is to do that. Or we can look to how the courts have actually interpreted what that means. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So the fact that the words aren't in the Constitution is completely irrelevant. But that's it's weird. It's a major like Christian David Barton talking point, and I don't know why. The second argument he made was a little more subtle, but just as wrong, right? And what he said was, respecting an establishment of religion doesn't preclude teaching Christianity, because one of the founding fathers, a guy named Benjamin Rush, who, by the way, was super duper religious, right? He wrote a Bible tract in 1791 for use in public schools. And so what that proves is that the First Amendment didn't. It's this totally like weird, convoluted argument. It's a great example of what you and Matt and others at the ACA call being fractally wrong, right? Like, it's hard to overstate how wrong this argument is. Okay. So let me try and break down the layers, right? Like, so the first is the sleight of hand on Rush. And you might be sitting there thinking, like, I know a lot of founding father, right? Like, I can name, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and Benjamin Franklin, and like, who the hell is Benjamin Rush, right? And the answer is that he was a guy who signed the Declaration of Independence, right? That's it. He was not at the Constitutional Convention. He didn't draft the Constitution. He didn't draft the First Amendment, right? So if you want to know what the First Amendment means from the perspective of the founding fathers, you wouldn't go to Benjamin Rush. You'd go to James Madison, and James Madison was super duper clear that the First Amendment was intended to separate church and state, right? That evidence is rock solid. So the first is there's this kind of sleight of hand of, why should we care about what Rush says anyway, right? The founding fathers were not a monolith, right? Like, they disagreed with each other all the time, and Rush wanted the Constitution to be way more religious than it is, because he was a religious dude. That proves we have a secular nation, not that it's a religious one, right? Number two, there were two public schools in the entirety of the United States in 1791, right? Like, I mean, we had two major waves of public education reform in this country. The first was in the 1840s, 1850s, and the second was with Thomas Dewey in the 20th century, right? Like, we were an agrarian economy where like kids learned how to work the farm. We didn't have public schooling back then. So there's not really much that's analogous. And then number three, and this is the biggest point, the Constitution and the First Amendment the protections of the Bill of Rights did not apply to the states in the 18th century. Right, there's a complicated doctrine called incorporation, but at the time, those handful of public schools were run by the states, and the First Amendment, as you know, says Congress shall make no law. So the fact that the First Amendment didn't apply to the states meant, unless the state had a parallel protection, it's not at all relevant to the meaning of the First Amendment for any of the founding fathers to say, oh yeah, well, this obviously wouldn't stop Massachusetts from doing XYZ, because the First Amendment did not apply to the states until 1925. And I know that's like totally counterintuitive. Today, you know, we use the Constitution as a bulwark against oppressive state activity, and it's a good thing, but that's because of the 14th Amendment, and that wouldn't be written for 100 years. So it's just like the idea that this pseudo history tells us what the First Amendment, it just couldn't be more wrong. So anyway, sorry, soapbox over, rant over.
No,
but
okay.
But it was strikingly dishonest, and I don't know if TE knew otherwise and came on to bully you because you guys aren't lawyers, or if he's just repeating stuff that, you know, his pastor told him. But either way, he's wrong, and I hope he's watching and it calls back in.
That I would love to see that.
That would be great.
And I personally feel like I got my own little opening arguments rant here.
Mini, yeah. How long? That was what, 11 minutes? That was pretty good. Usually that'd be a show and a half. But
hey, you know what? I do not mind shilling for your show anytime. If you have not heard opening arguments, when you're finished listening to this, go and subscribe. Get that on your RSS feed, because it is informational, it's educational, and it's fun.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, brother. All right. So we've got Atheist Vanguard at 3. And let's see. I'm a little bit off. Let me make sure that I get the regular announcements out quickly, because I know that we've been without calls for a little while. What I want to say is that Talk Heathen is a production of the atheist community of Austin. If you enjoy what we do, if you like it and you want to support us, please consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. We've had to get a lot of different software and a lot of different programs and hardware and things to be able to outfit our hosts and make sure that they can work safely from home. And that has been coming from the support of our patrons. If you like what we do, again, patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. Also, you'll see the link underneath for the bit.ly for the AEN merch. You can get your Talk Heathen mugs and shirts because we have not been able to film the new intro because of COVID-19. You can still get your OG merch before we change up the logo, and it'll be gone forever. So definitely bit.ly/AEN merch. Oh, all right. Oh, and I picked our top 5 patrons 2/3 of the way through the show. Yes, that. All right, Andrew, do you have the call-in app? Can you see, or am I going to be picking for us?
I think you're going to be picking for us, but okay. Go nuts, man.
Cool. Well, we're going to start by talking to Marquel. Oh, no, Carlos in Baytown, Texas. Carlos.
Hi, Carlos. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you for taking my call. Hello?
Hello. Yeah, you're on, Carlos. Hit us.
Oh, okay. I want to thank you for taking my call. Thank you.
Absolutely. What do you want to talk about?
I was thinking about the people that call in your show, and they love. Well, most of the callers want to talk about the Bible, and I don't think they know the Bible that well, because when you throw them a question, it's like they either stop or. It really looks like they don't know what they're talking about, and on the other side. Also, you look like you don't know what you're talking about the Bible. That sounds to me like that. Like I was thinking, well, maybe they don't understand the Bible, neither side, because the Bible was written for the chosen people, the Jews, and you're not Jewish, you're Gentile. I was thinking there was a God for the Aztecs.
So Carlos. Okay.
Yes.
Do you know the Bible? Is that what you've come on to represent? So you've said that neither the callers nor the hosts know the Bible. Do you know the Bible?
I'm not a religious man. I don't belong to any religion. I think
so good. So none of us know the Bible, and none of us care why.
Yeah, is that right? So you're saying we don't know it, even though you don't know it. How do you know we don't know it if you don't know it either?
Well, the discussions you have is like it looks sometimes like you're acting in good faith, like you're saying, well, that couldn't be, that is immoral, that's not right, that like that.
I mean,
but then
there
I
are
think
a lot of immoral things in the Bible. Wouldn't you agree?
I haven't found one. If you please tell me one. I'm a religious man, okay, to begin.
So
no, tell me one, please.
Yeah, killing every man, woman, child, and animal on the planet, except for a couple people in a boat.
Yeah. The God of the Bible literally drowns puppies. I mean, that's cartoon supervillainy, right? Like, what do you think of that?
Well, what I think is that if you really understand the Bible, or anyone that read that part of the Bible, that story, the person that is talking about the world is talking about the world, their world. It's very simple because it's not saying.
Okay, fine. He didn't. No. Let's do local flood. He only drowned some puppies. How many puppies do you get to drown before you're a bad dude?
Okay. Well,
because my number. No. I mean, let's be clear here. My number is 0. Right? 0 puppies drowned. Is there an acceptable level of killing puppies?
Actually, see, that's when I think that you guys on the other side, you got it wrong. Now,
what? So wait. No. Okay.
I explained.
No. You got to stop. You said I got it wrong. So let me ask you how I've gotten it wrong. Is it your position that God has killed 0 puppies?
Okay, here's the answer. If you find somebody in the corner of a street and it's a beggar and you give that guy $1, does anyone come to you and say, why did you give him $1? You should give him $100 or more money. You have more money in your wallet. Or somebody else. Let me finish the example.
No,
that's not an answer, dude.
Stop. Try again. Answer Andrew's question. Answer Andrew's question.
Okay, here goes the answer. The one that gives is the one that knows how much is going to give. God gave life, so according to the Bible. So God knows how much life is going to give to any puppies.
I get. Hold on. I get the answer because he doesn't want to say yes, God kills puppies, but what he says is yes, God kills puppies because God was the one who gave life to the puppies in the first place.
So we can take them away.
This is right. This is a version of the old Bill Cosby routine, which has not aged well. That was, hey, I brought you into this world. I can take you out. And the reason why that's allegedly funny is because those of you who are parents, I have a son, understand that that's precisely not the case. I gave life to my son with my wife, but I gave life to my son. I brought him into the world. I cannot murder him, despite the fact that I'm the one that brought him into the world, right? So I would be curious why you think a different rule applies to God. Why is it okay for God to murder the people that he's given, the animals that he's given life to?
That's not. See, that's when I say you got it wrong. He gives life.
No, I'm not wrong. Genesis says he drowned all the animals of the earth. Now you want to read in an exception and be like, well, that was just in Mesopotamia. Cool. I'm saying he drowned, by your book, he drowned a whole bunch of puppies in ancient Mesopotamia. And I'm asking you why that's okay.
Okay. That's why I need you. You don't understand the 2 times I answered to you. So I'm going to give an example, and then maybe you'll find out the answer. If you give a dollar to someone, and somebody's going to okay. So the one that gives is the only one that knows how much he's going to give. So I'm not saying that you have to believe in God or don't have to believe in God. think what the Bible says is right because it's telling you that God gives life. So God knows how much life He's going to give to anyone. I'm not saying that I'm siding with the Bible. I'm not saying that I'm going against you. I'm just stating a fact. If you understood the Bible, you would agree, but you don't understand it because you use your intelligence that goes on the opposite direction to the Bible.
Yeah. Carlos.
God knows how much life He's going to give.
Carlos. Just because we have different opinions of it doesn't mean we don't understand it. What that's doing is that writing us off, finding a reason not to listen to us. Oh, I'm not going to engage with the topic. Instead, I'm just going to say they don't understand it. That's incredibly petty.
No,
condescending.
No. We're gonna try. So, all right, we tried. Yeah, we tried on the puppies. I'm with Eric. Like I have not accused you of not understanding stuff. And I'm just going to let the listeners draw the conclusion for themselves as to who's got a better understanding here of the Bible. Let me ask you this one, Carlos. Genesis. No, you may not. I'm done with the puppies because you've not responded to the argument. You've said God gave life so He can take it away. I gave you a 5-minute example of that's stupid, and your response was to repeat it. So I'm done. I'm going to move on.
It's not stupid because if the Bible is what it says, if you like the Bible, you understand the Bible, but you don't understand it, that's what you go against it. If someone reads the Bible,
I'm sick of somebody telling me I don't understand when I know it twice as well as he does.
And he's dropped.
Thanks. I'm sorry. Like if you want to make an argument, but don't come on and tell us we don't understand. I mean, as you pointed out, like the reason I have read the Bible is because my co-host on Opening Arguments, Thomas Smith, did a show called Thomas and the Bible, in which he literally read through every book of the Bible. So I have read the entire Bible cover to cover, which I know you have as well, Eric. Mm-hmm. And I am also positive in my interactions, not that they admit it, that 99% of Christians haven't done that. So, you want to tell me that you have a different view on theology, great, but don't come on and tell me I don't understand that, Anyway, sorry. Didn't mean to be super cranky, but
no, that's okay. That's okay. The hand signal is this. If you want to move, I will cut. You do this. We don't have that cathartic button, the drop button right now. Yeah. So we've got to work on that. Maybe I can ask Vern if he can make like a big red button that we can just go bang, drop the
I started out, I wanted to steel man TE's argument. But we asked him nicely not to say you don't understand. And anyway. All right. Yeah. I'll calm down.
No worries. It was
next victim.
It was fun to watch. Let's go on and talk to Marquel in Augusta, Georgia. Marquel, you're live with Eric and Andrew. What would you like to talk about today?
Hey, how you doing, Eric and Andrew? I was calling today about that God exists.
Okay,
cool.
Which one?
Well, there's only one God.
Well, I mean, you're aware that people believe in different ones, right?
Yes, I'm very aware, but
okay.
I'm telling you the truth. There's only one God.
Okay, well, you say, who is this God?
Well, how people pretty much have a conclusion of, not really knowing that God is invisible. There's no image you can see of God.
Okay.
Oh,
So invisible tells us what God isn't, right? Invisible means not visible. What is God?
Well, you answer your own question. God is God.
That's a tautology. I mean, if that's just going in a circle, can you try explaining it to us?
I mean, that's something I can't explain to you because I'm not God, but I know.
Okay. So let's try this. Yeah. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Yes or no?
No.
Why not?
Because that's false information. God is not Allah.
How do you know?
Name people made of God.
Right.
Huh?
So neither of us are Muslims, as you might gather. So what I'm asking for is, what are the criteria that you use to differentiate the Muslim conception of God from whatever your conception of God is, so that we can figure out what that is. Because we've tried a couple times to ask you what God is, and you won't answer. So you seem to know what he isn't. We're trying to figure it out. Cool. Yeah, you've said God is God. That's super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only answer that's possible. Like, there's no.
So, is there any reason for us to talk to you, Marquel?
Oh yes. I was calling today because I wanted to talk about my pre-existence.
Your pre-existence.
Yes.
Okay. What is that?
Okay, my pre-existence is I existed before my human existence.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
What existed? So you're saying you existed before your body?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that we can track the different things that you think about, your cognition, to your brain? Are you aware of that? Like we've seen, in medical history, people who've gotten brain damage, or people who have gotten lobotomized, or whatever the case may be, that different parts of your brain correlate to, and your brain itself is entirely responsible for the cognition that you have. So what part of you is outside of your brain? I'm wondering what part of you existed before your brain, because if your memories, if your sense of humor, if your tastes, or if anything that you identify as you is tied to your brain, then what's left?
Okay, you have to listen.
I'm listening.
I existed before Earth and heaven. All right, that's what pre-existence means. Like, in the Bible, the first 7 words is God.
Marquel, can you help me out here? Marquel.
Okay, listen. I'm listening to y'all, so you have to listen to me.
Right, but I need to ask you a question first. Otherwise, this isn't going to make sense to me. What does the word exist mean to you?
Okay, that's a good question. Exist pretty much as in living.
Okay, good. So, what does it mean to be alive?
That you're living life, like as in, that's how it is to be alive. You're not dead. You're
look,
walking around.
Walking around, great. Defining life is super duper tough, right? Like so I agree with that. You would accept that all of the definitions that we have of life right now, no matter how expansively, are physical and biological, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to figure out is, you're now saying you were alive before you were alive. And that sounds to me, is why I interrupt with the question. Well, okay, well, now I need to ask the question again, because I asked you what exist meant, and you said meant to be alive, and you said you existed before you were born, which was when you became alive. So I'm just subbing in words, man.
So you putting it. That's why I want you to listen, because I know it's gonna be hard for you to understand it. Okay,
cool.
You said it, but existing.
All doing that.
I'm saying. Oh, I'm sorry. No disrespect. But I'm just trying to help you understand. All right. Existing, as in currently living. That's all I'm saying. Like you said what existing. I'm telling you, it's currently living. Like right now.
Okay. Right. So look. And again, I'm really very seriously trying to have a productive conversation with you, right? You said that you existed before you were born, right? That's a thing that you said. That's
until my human existence.
Yep. So then I asked you, what does exist mean? And you said to be alive, and you just repeated that. So it seems to me.
I was saying it's currently living. Like we're both existing right now. We're currently living. But
right.
We agree with that.
This is
what we're wondering here is, it sounds like you're saying that you were currently alive before you were alive.
Okay,
Right.
we're gonna put. I existed before I was sent into my human existence.
So we're
Right.
That's the best I can.
Andrew's asking, just making sure that we're on the same page here. When you're saying existing, the definition you gave is to be currently alive. So anywhere that you say existence, I can take the word existence out and put your definition in, which is what Andrew did.
Oh, so you said existence or existing? I'm sorry, I probably heard it wrong.
Those are different conjugations of the same word, right?
Yeah.
Like I just want to figure out what your claim is so that we can understand it, because I know you want to tell the story, but if we don't agree on what the terms mean, it's not going to be helpful.
We'll just
So
go past each other.
All right, listen. All right, it's not a claim, and that's what I was saying. Just let me just.
well, it is a claim. No, it is a claim, right? You're saying a thing is true, and you're saying a thing that almost nobody agrees with, right? You're saying you were alive before you were alive. I'm trying to figure out what that means and how that can be, but I mean, you can't say it's not a claim. Like, by definition, you're claiming a thing to be true.
I'm not claiming anything, and that's why I was speaking to you. I said,
All right, well then, cool. Then we're just talking.
Yeah, it sounds like this conversation's not going anywhere. I think you should go back and listen because Andrew clearly described what the claim is, right? You made a claim and then you didn't make a claim. So either you don't understand what claim is, which means that you weren't listening, or you're trying to double back and gaslight us, and that's not helpful at all.
All right, listen. You said, what does pre-existence mean?
No, I said, what does existence
I'm trying to give you. That's why I said, just let me talk. That's all I'm asking. Let me talk. I'll let you talk. Just let me
Cool.
talk.
Put the clock up. Let's let him talk. Give him a minute or so.
Thank
Or
you.
unless
If
you want to bail, we can bail.
I'm going to jump in, but go ahead, man.
Listen, I understand it's gonna be hard for you to understand. Okay. All right. I existed before my human existence, pre-existence, as you see in the Bible, there says God created heaven and earth, right? Well, I existed before that. There's actually a story of my existence that was never written because this is my first existence here on earth.
That makes no sense. We're asking you to clarify that because just saying that, I mean, I can tell you, Marquel, before doing this show, I actually, put on a spandex suit and flew around like Superman, did a lap around the city, and then came back into this room. Do you believe me?
Eric looks good in spandex, man.
It's not that it doesn't. It's not that it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. It's just that you don't understand it.
No, that's the second one. You're done. So for those callers on the line, talk to us, help us through it. But to say, to judge our cognitive ability, to go, you just don't have the brain tools to understand this. It's not helpful. It's just cutting us off, and it's frustrating. But that's 2 in a row. Maybe that's our day today, man. Maybe that's what we're gonna do. But I really, guess who called in?
Do we have TE?
We have T in Chicago, Illinois. You're live with Eric and Andrew. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Fantastic.
well. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, it sounded like you guys were interested in talking about the topic of the Constitution.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to go heat up a burrito. Y'all do you?
So, TE, let me make sure. Did you hear the intro segment?
Popcorn.
I heard part of it.
Okay. So I want to. I started. Yep, awesome. I want to walk you through some questions. First, I tried, and I try and do this, to be as charitable as I can, to steelman your arguments. I understood your argument to be that the First Amendment does not require the separation of church and state. Is that a fair summary of your argument?
No, I think that there is a separation of church and state. I just think that it's not understood the way that most
Cool. Well,
atheists.
that's why I asked. Cool. So
interpret.
tell me what you think the First Amendment means.
I think the First Amendment is a restriction on the government for religion, that it helps to promote the freedom of expression of religion. It's not to try to keep religion out of the schools like we've seen many secular organizations try to enforce through one-sided lawyers.
All right, it went off the rails a little bit at the end there, but let me see if I can't summarize it back to you. What you're saying is that the First Amendment does not prohibit some kind of promoting religion in public schools. Is that correct?
No, it does not. It does not prohibit that at all.
So your answer to my question is yes.
Okay, so the example that I gave the other night to try to help make my case was one of the founding fathers, the very year the First Amendment was created, Benjamin Rush, promoted, he creaed a tract to promote the Bible in the classrooms.
Totally familiar with this. In fact, we're going to start with the facts and then work our way to the principles. Who was Benjamin Rush?
He was one of our founding fathers.
Okay, what does it mean to be a founding father?
He helped to develop this country.
Okay, helped to develop this country in what way? What did Benjamin Rush specifically do to develop this country?
I believe he was part of Congress beforehand.
Okay, he was.
Want me to answer?
So, well, what I want, because it's easy to take people and label them as founding fathers. What we want to do as lawyers, understanding the Constitution, is figure out the role that people played in the specific documents that are foundational to our nation's history. So Benjamin Rush was
Jefferson. He would probably be a good example of that.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson would be a super good example. Absolutely, right? Because Thomas Jefferson was the person upon whom James Madison relied in drafting the First Amendment. So would you agree with me then that Thomas Jefferson and James Madison's views on the First Amendment are super more instructive than Benjamin Rush's?
Well, I mean, that's sort of vague. Are you saying that they're more significant because they had their involvement in the...
Try it like this. Who wrote the First Amendment?
James Madison did.
James Madison. So if you want to know what our founding fathers thought the First Amendment meant, and you could only ask one person in history, and I give you the choice between James Madison or Benjamin Rush, who would you pick? It's not a hard question.
I don't think it's that simple.
This is a super easy question. Come on.
Simple.
Yeah, it is that simple. You get to pick one whose views are more instructive for what the First Amendment means. The guy who wrote it or some other dude.
Talk. I can give you an answer. But you're going to have to let me talk. I think it's a bit more complex than that because most of the...
I disagree, but go ahead.
An argument. Well, most of the founding fathers stood in arguments with one another, and we know that Thomas Jefferson didn't. And I have to ask, where are you leading with this? Because we don't agree with the idea of separation of church and state, and we have.
I thought you said you did.
Rush, one of the founding fathers. No. We don't disagree with the idea of separation of church and state. Just the interpretation.
Who's we, by the way? I'm just curious.
I'm assuming there's no disagreement with separation of church and state, right? We both agree that separation of church and state is there.
You and I fundamentally disagree over what that means because your specific example is that it's okay to pray in public schools.
There's only
definitely disagree.
Out of the 56 people who were together in developing the Constitution.
That number is bullshit, by the way. That's a David Barton misinformation. There were not 56 people who drafted the Constitution. That is nonsense. Keep going.
Well,
it's nonsense. You have been reading. You have been reading.
Do you have a point to make? Do you actually have a point to make? Do you want me to talk? I'm trying to get a thought out, but you need to let me speak, okay?
I'm going to let you speak, but when you say something that's wrong, I'm going to correct you.
You haven't shown me where I'm wrong in anything yet, but I would like to finish my thought.
go for it.
Benjamin Rush, who was one of the founding fathers, we need to think about it, okay? You're claiming that the separation of church and state means something specifically, okay? And I'm claiming that it means something different. So we have Benjamin Rush, one of the founding fathers. He was one of the founding fathers. The very year the amendment was created by James Madison, which was helped to be created by Thomas Jefferson. He's the one who introduced it to him. Okay, he is enforcing this or promoting this idea of the Bible in the classrooms. Can you show me any of the founding fathers who stopped that activity because it violated separation of church and state? I know certain founding fathers who didn't like the idea of the Bible in the classrooms because they thought that it was way as they got older. But the separation of church and state understood by you doesn't exist in any of the writings by any of the founding fathers.
So that's A, that's not true. But B, let me go back and answer your question.
Prove it.
No, I'm about to do that. So I need you to answer a couple questions first. Okay. So number one, how many, right? So you asked me a question. I'm doing my best here, brother. Okay. So your claim is that Benjamin Rush promoted a tract for use in public schools, and that informs our view of the First Amendment, correct?
Yes, it informs part of our view on the First Amendment.
Good. I'm glad. We're going to try and have a productive conversation. Awesome. That was 1791 when he wrote that tract, right?
It was 1791, I believe. It was the very year the First Amendment was created.
The year the First Amendment was adopted. Okay, cool. How many public schools were there in the United States in 1791?
How many public schools? Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah. So would you like to know the answer?
Okay, who cares?
2. I kind of think it's important, if you're going to be arguing about the view of the First Amendment as it applies today, to understand the institutions to which you're claiming the law did or did not apply back in 1791. So the answer, as far as I can tell, is 2.
You need to get to a point, though. You need to get to your point. Where's your evidence?
You're on mute. Look, dude. This is a show that you are on at our leisure, and we can drop you. This is not the TE show. Andrew had a question, and either you're going to answer it, or we're going to move on to the next call. That is how this works. You're off mute. You're back. Hi, TE.
So am I allowed to answer freely? I've done this research for years, and I can defend myself.
No, you haven't. You have not.
But I'm going to have to answer for myself.
Tell me. No. Tell me how you define research, because I know what you've done. You've read David Barton's pseudo history, which is so bad major publishers have had to rescind his books. Okay.
Let me give you an example. Okay. So far, I'm the only one who's been able to reference. Can I speak, please? Can I finish my thought? All I want to do is
just get it over with. Go.
Okay.
No,
so I'm the only one who's shown a founding father who made a direct claim. Okay. Okay. Am I going to talk? Can I talk?
I haven't said anything.
Okay. So last time, here's what I mean by research. Okay. When I was on the call last time, when I was removed from the call, the person that I was speaking to claimed, he repeated rhetoric that I'm hearing very familiar, like yourself, that Thomas Jefferson was a deist, and then I was removed and I was
No.
There is
stop this.
If you go to the actual source,
you have me
doesn't say
on
that.
the call now, not last week,
and you are not providing any evidence, sir. I'm the only one who showed what a founding father actually said.
Just tell me when to mute him.
So here's what I'm pointing out. You're repeating claims, and you don't understand those claims. So when you say that Benjamin Rush
did what you said they shouldn't do.
So when I asked you how many when you said Benjamin Rush wrote a tract for use in public schools,
show me any founding father who did different.
Please,
anyone.
On mute. Shut up. Okay. Listen.
So, TE, you said Benjamin Rush wrote a tract for use of teaching the Bible in public schools. And then I asked you how many public schools there were in 1791.
You're just spewing a lot of rhetoric. Show me a founding father proving your claim. I can prove it. You want to just...
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thanks. So, so I kind of think you ought to know what your claim is if you're going to make it. But I have a very, very specific question for you. There is one right answer, and I will allow you to Google it while I'm talking. And that question is, do you know when the First Amendment was incorporated to the states? There is a simple answer. It is a year, it is a number, or you can give the case as well. Please answer that question.
Unmuting him now. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think it's important for us to summarize that I was able to give a founding father who promoted the Bible in the classrooms. You
muted.
T, I'm going to give you one more chance. This is a year and a case. You don't have to name the case, but you do have to name the year, because the First Amendment did not apply to the states until it was incorporated. And so your question is worse than nonsense. When you say, show me a founding father who disagreed, of course they did not disagree, because you can't disagree until the First Amendment applies to the states. And that didn't happen until this year. Would you like to say the year, or would you like us to move on?
Well, Andrew, here's the problem. The First Amendment, when it was put in place.
This is just, so again, I want to be super clear while TE listens and is unhappy about the fact that he's suffering cognitive dissonance because he's read a book that claims to be history, and it's super hard when you realize that people in positions of authority are lying to you. And I don't use that lightly, okay? Not all pastors or revisionists or whatever are lying. Some people are just misunderstood. David Barton is a liar. He is engaged in deliberate dishonesty and has manufactured stuff. Okay. And this argument is so preposterously bad. You could take any lawyer and TE, I encourage you. I know you don't believe me. I'm some goofball on the internet. I mean, I did graduate top of my class from Harvard Law School, but whatever. Talk to a conservative lawyer in your town. Talk to a Trump supporting lawyer and ask him if this argument makes any sense. And that lawyer, she will tell you, no, it does not. And the reason is the First Amendment did not apply to the states until 1925. The case is called Gitlow versus New York. You can look it up when you go back and listen to this conversation, not that you will. And so the idea that the founding fathers would think that state practices in the Massachusetts colony would violate the First Amendment is nonsense. The First Amendment didn't apply to Massachusetts in 1791, and no one thought it did. So it's not instructive for your position. And you're just repeating garbage that David Barton has been selling. And I'm done. Sorry.
David Barton, come at us.
Yeah. No. I'd love it if he called in.
That said, see, this is why I want you here. When there's something that is obviously outside of my expertise, I'm really, really glad that we can bring someone like you in who does understand, does know, and has done the research. So I'm really glad that you're here to do that, because I could not engage at that level.
And look, like you saw, and I hope that he goes away and we put, a little bit of a stone in his shoe, because, you saw he didn't want to answer the question. He knows Benjamin Rush had nothing to do with the drafting of the Constitution or the drafting of the First Amendment. And to lump everybody together as founding fathers and to say Benjamin Rush's opinion counts as much as James Madison's, it's just nonsense. And he knows that, he really does. And maybe he'll go back and look and sort of see how cherry-picked these things are. No question, Benjamin Rush, super religious dude, wanted the Constitution to be way more religious than he was. I would, by the way, the reason I cut him off, because he is right on this. You shouldn't say that Thomas Jefferson was a deist, right? That's a thing that we as atheists shouldn't say. Thomas Jefferson was what I would call a Protestant rationalist, right? Like he definitely believed in God. I mean, but he had his Bible where he, razored out all the miracles and stuff. So I think it's deist implies watchmaker, totally impersonal, wound up the universe and then stepped away. And I want us to be careful that we don't give them accidental ammunition. I was not going to go down that rabbit trail. It is 100% clear that zero of the founding fathers were fundamentalist Christians in the way that they're being co-opted today, right? Most of them were non-Orthodox. Plenty of them were deists. Benjamin Rush was an Episcopalian, right? Like, and super religious, right? Like the point isn't the religious identities of the founding fathers. The point is they created a secular government, and that's just inarguable. So,
all right,
rant. I'm sorry.
Look at that. That's all right, man. That's all right. We're going to move on to Stephen in Columbus, Ohio. Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
With Eric and Andrew.
I'm a nicer guy than you think so far. I promise. Eric will tell you.
Yeah, he's a big.
How are you doing today, folks?
Doing well. Trying to stay safe. How about you, man?
Doing pretty well. Staying safe as well. A little crazy
Good.
here, just staying at home, but I'm surviving. So.
Good. What did you want to talk about?
So this is a little difficult to convey. So let me just sort of start from the beginning, and hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. Essentially, the main gist of my question, sort of what I want to talk about quickly, is how do you sort of stay true to your beliefs without being easily swayed by other people? If that makes sort of any sense.
Absolutely. And just so that we can contextualize this, are you a believer? Are you an atheist? Are you a deist? What's your view on that so we can kind of contextualize that?
I am a believer, but that is very tentative at this moment.
Okay.
Good. By the way,
I'll go there.
Good. Like I think Eric and I would both say, like, one of the hallmarks of intellectual honesty is saying that I hold to my beliefs tentatively. So I don't view that as a bad thing. I view that as a good thing. So
absolutely, I think everything should be tentatively held for sure. Yeah. Because if you,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So with the question, how we stand firm on our beliefs, and what prevents us from vacillating between theism and atheism.
Sort of. Do you mind if I give a little bit of background, sort of where I'm coming from specifically?
Sure. Just so long as we keep in mind that it's a talk show and we can't do like a long exposition. Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I've watched it all enough. I get it. Sorry if I'm a little nervous.
Good,
no, don't. I promise. Don't call us idiots, and you'll be great.
Or tell us we don't understand.
And by the way, it prompts the call screener for getting my name spelled correctly on the screen, so I appreciate that.
As a Torres with 2 R's and a Z, I feel you, brother.
Okay, so really quickly, so I became Christian at a very young age, and I was very into it. I was, going to be a pastor. I thought one day, I was doing all of those things, youth group and all that. Fast forward after my college years, and I meet this girl, and she's Jewish. Mm-hmm. And less than 6 months later, I convert to Judaism. And so at that point, though, but the thing is, like, I really bought into it. Like, I came up with the theological reasons why I shouldn't believe in Jesus. I grappled with the question of hell. Like, I actually became Jewish. I wore the yarmulke, I kept kosher. I did everything, it wasn't just for the sake of the marriage necessarily. But so finally but now as I'm getting older, I'm, listening to more people having more open and honest conversation, I'm recognizing I don't have any scientific and logical evidence for God. I fully accept that I believe tentatively right now in God, but not necessarily for good reasons. I have my own reasons. I recognize that they're probably bad, and that's why I'm on my own journey of likely seeing my way out, but sort of it's difficult, obviously.
Yeah.
I still enjoy. Huh?
So
we're just agreeing with you.
Yeah. A couple questions. This is You're still married to this woman?
And no, that was going to be the last part. I divorced.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut it.
No, you're fine. No, we divorced. But one of the questions I went into that conversion was, God forbid, if we were to divorce, would I still want to be Jewish? And the answer at that time was yes. And the answer after divorce was still yes. I still consider myself Jewish at this point.
Sure.
I still very much enjoy Judaism and at least the secular aspect of what I get from the religion, notably the food. But I mean, I do like services. I like the aspect. I like the meditation aspect of it. I like the social aspect of it. I like being reminded to always better myself, even if I don't necessarily agree with the mythos of the actual scripture.
Yeah.
Taking
cultural parts.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to say taking the cultural parts on is amazing. You don't have to get rid of that. I mean, you're talking to somebody who loves Christmas. I love Christmas. That doesn't mean that I believe the nativity story, but it's something that is culturally yours. And it's something that, I think that any excuse you have to tell the people that you love them is good enough.
Here.
Yeah.
Stephen, I'm going to say two things to you. And as the guest host, maybe I can get away with the first one. This is a little secret from me to you. If you're happy being Jewish right now, and it's not, causing man, no one's got to drag you out kicking and screaming, right? Like go on your journey, express you. It sounds like you have a super healthy curiosity, and there's, we don't. You're not, if you were, spending thousands of dollars a week on Scientology, maybe we would be, sending the deprogrammers to your house right now to pull you away. It's okay, man. Take some time and view it. And the second thing that I would say is when you're thinking about, I love that, Eric, there's a rift in the atheist community on, are you pro-Christmas or anti-Christmas? And I am.
We all know that either you're pro-Christmas or you're wrong.
Right. I am super duper pro-Christmas. I love Christmas. And one of the things that I would recommend as you're thinking, something that I love to do. I haven't done this in about 10 years with a friend of mine who grew up Jewish, and we would have a Passover Seder because Passover is awesome. Now we would modify it a little bit. Instead of drinking Manischewitz, we would get a bottle of really good wine, and instead of doing gefilte fish, we would get sashimi from the local sushi place. And so, so we had this like elaborate, cultural, with great food and good drink and good friends. And it was a lot of fun. And I would recommend like try out some other religious holidays, some non-Christian and non-Jewish holidays. Like go to your local, if you've got a Wat Thai temple, like go on a Thai holiday, like go to a Hindu temple, like you get some amazing food on their holiday. Like it just like there's so much. I don't have the, and again, right, I'm the guest guy, so like maybe the next ACA approved host will come in and be like, no, must like only secular things count. But to me, like what Eric said in terms of being able to take away the things you enjoy, it doesn't sound like it sounds like you're open-minded, you're trying to figure things out, and they're things that you enjoy, and like I don't want to take that away from you, man.
Yeah, I think the important thing to really drive home there is while you're on this journey, just keep an eye out for your epistemic grounding. As you're coming across new ideas, really kind of focus in on how you know what you know, and how you can understand things, how you can test them, how you can determine whether or not somebody's pulling the wool over your eyes. And if you've got that, if you're armed with that, you can go anywhere, man. It's going to help you a whole lot more than just the religion question. It's going to help you in regular life. And so as long as you're doing that, I mean, honestly, how did we get to where we're at? I think what you're describing is probably a pretty good descriptor. I know that I had a journey, Andrew. Did you have a journey into atheism, or have you always been an atheist?
No, I grew up Lutheran. I grew up in a pretty liberal Lutheran church, and so I was happy. I was an altar boy. I was confirmed. I did youth retreats, and I was super happy with that. Up until somebody asked the right question of me late in high school. I was a high school debater. And prior to that, the only question I ever got was, what religion are you? And the answer was, I'm Lutheran. And all of a sudden, I met somebody at a debate tournament that said, are you religious? And I said, what kind of, isn't everybody religious? And really that was like just all the dominoes fell. It was all of a sudden the question became, is this true? Right. And look, and it's part of why I gave you the, like, from me to you, right? For an awful lot of people, I will talk to them and I'll ask them, hey, do you care if it's true or not? And some people are super duper honest, right? They'll be like, nope, don't care at all if it's true. Like, I love the community and I like the, like, potluck dinners and my view on that is if that's where you are, right, there's some epistemic concerns if, when we say we don't care if a thing is true or not, but like by and large,
if that's where I'm sort of at, like, I'm sorry to butt in. I really,
no, that was an awesome time to butt in. Otherwise I would have just talked forever. So
but that's sort of where I'm at because, like I told you earlier, like, I recognize that I probably don't have any concrete scientific or logical evidence, for the supernatural. So like I said, I believe in probably what are bad reasons. But to me, my faith, I don't proselytize, I have, I don't believe in a concept of salvation. I have no skin in the game, to be this, horrific, religious person that you see day in and day out, on these shows. I live my life. I have my beliefs and I just go on with my day and I meet good people along the way. And so, but, there comes a point like, do I care about the truth? And, that's sort of where I'm at. And like, I feel like I might have this codependency, on these beliefs. And that's one thing I go to therapy for is I recognize I have a tendency for codependency, whether it's on relationships or on beliefs. Both of my parents passed away when I was in high school. Like, out of fear of
God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I mean, but like, I have all these different things that I go to therapy for that I recognize that's important. And I'm just sort of like trying to sift through all that crap, to learn how to engage in open conversation without blindly taking on other people's positions. Like, I feel like I could potentially talk to a Christian and if they're persuasive enough, become a Christian again. Which,
just take your time on it. Take your time and really work on that epistemic, grounding. And it applies in way more places than just religion. It's going to determine whether or not you're going to get, brought in by the people who are trying to sell you colloidal silver to cure COVID-19, or tell you that if you just have the right essential oils, or whatever the case is. The interesting thing is the longer. But the thing is the longer you practice with it, the more you're going to find that those unjustified answers are going to become less and less satisfying. At least in my experience, that's the case. And over time, it shifts. It shifts. But don't try and force yourself. You'll get there, man. But we're going to move on to the next caller. It has been good talking to you, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, have a great.
You too.
That was awesome. I feel so much better now.
Right? This is the warm fuzzies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
I couldn't add anything better than what you said already. So, great.
Well, you got it, man. It really, really is wonderful. And that is definitely one thing that I think we should be doing as a community. And every time we get the opportunity to do it, I think there's just so much value in being able to tell people like him, hey, you're not alone. You know, I've been there too. It's awesome. But before we move on to the next caller, I do want to thank our top 5 patrons.
All right.
Right. These people are helping us keep this going, helping us keep these programs that we're running. We're doing a program called callinstudio.com and a couple of other things that our tech people have got going. But our top 5 patrons today are Gary Day, Charlotte Crum, Bethany P, Desert Heathen, and Mr. Weed Wacky. Thank you so much. We're trying to put that to good use. If you'd like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. All right. With that said, let's move on to another caller. How about Patrick in Canada? Patrick, you're live with Eric and Andrew. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi.
Hi, Patrick.
You guys have... Hi, how's it going?
Awesome. How are you?
Good, thanks. So I was just wondering, you guys have any questions about the Bible you can ask me, and maybe I can answer?
No.
Nope.
Is there anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I can talk about... do you know the part in the Bible where it says that Moses sent spies in the Canaan land?
So I want to stop you for a second, Patrick. What I would be curious is why should I care about the Bible, other than as historical or literature, whatever. But why should I care about the Bible?
Oh, this is a historical question.
Okay.
So I want to prove that the Bible is real through historical things that we can still see today.
Okay, so now I got to stop you again. And I should let Eric do this because he's got the best example I've ever heard anybody do. And I'm going to steal it from him, even though he's sitting right across from me. And that is the comic book Spider-Man is set in New York City. Okay. The fact that the Spider-Man comic book has some historical elements in it does not prove that there's a dude bitten by a radioactive spider that can shoot webs. Okay. So showing me that some of the things in the Bible may be historically true does nothing. Okay.
And we have gotten some feedback. People are saying, is there anything other than Spider-Man? Yes, absolutely. If you've read Don Quixote de la Mancha, you have Don Quixote who's traveling across the Spanish countryside. You have references to, and especially in Don Quixote, at the beginning, it says this is real according to. Especially in Don Quixote, it's said right inside the book that this is true.
Yep.
And
there's an entire genre of historical fiction, right? Real Spider-Man is just, it's the easiest and best example because it's preposterously false, right? We know without having to ask anything that Spider-Man isn't true. But yeah, entire genre of historical fiction. There's a science fiction author named Jack Finney who does these elaborate time travel things, and every book begins the same way. It's an homage to Don Quixote. Begins with "This really happened to me," right? In the same, and so yeah, there's tons of examples. So
the point that we're getting to is, if you were to point out something that we could historically verify, our question is there a way that you can justify the miracle claims, or is that even what you wanted to talk about? Maybe we're talking past you. Patrick?
I wanted to talk about giants, if you guys are interested about that.
You want to talk about giants?
Yes.
Okay, what about giants?
So there's a thing, it says that there were giants that were more than 37 feet high, as big as mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, where does it? So let me just stop you. Where does it say that in the Bible? What book?
Moses sent.
What is this? So is this in Genesis? Where is it? I want to find this citation because I don't remember 37 feet in the Bible.
It's in Numbers.
Okay, where in Numbers?
Sorry, I can check the line for you here.
Yeah, please do. I want chapter and verse here because yes, there were in that day there were giants among them that were the offspring of the Nephilim, the offspring of humans and angels, and so this would qualify under the fantastical made up stuff that Eric and I don't believe in. But if you're citing a biblical passage, let's get the right one.
Yeah, so it's in Moses chapter 13. So
there's no book of Moses.
Numbers.
Is it Numbers 13?
Yes. It's the book of Numbers, chapter 13. I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. What verse?
Verse 2, you could say that.
Verse 2 is, "Send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, and one a ruler among them." That does not sound like giants to me.
Where so verse 27 is when they came back and reported what they had seen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. So this is the passage we were talking about, right? That says the land it's verse 33 at the very end that says, "And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." So I don't see the 37 feet thing.
Oh, it says that they were like grasshoppers in their presence, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right, but you gave me I'm sorry, I don't mean to be pedantic about this. Can't help it, I'm a lawyer. You gave a very specific number. You said 37 feet, and I'm just curious where the 37 feet came from. If that's not important, I don't mean to derail this. So.
Okay. I may have read the Book of Enoch. Have you read about that book?
I have indeed read the Book of Enoch, and I would love to talk to you about the Book of Enoch. So, any reason you know why it's not in the Bible?
It's still in the Ethiopian Bible. If you know about that, it was.
I do.
The Roman Bible. Constantine was the Pope, but it was in the Bible, and it's referenced in the Bible several times.
Sure, and you know what's really, really cool about the Book of Enoch is the only person who never dies, right?
And Elijah never dies too. Actually.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, Elijah's still walking the earth, but Enoch lived 360 years and then walks with God in the heavens. Do you have any idea why Enoch lived? And 360 is a pretty specific number. You have any idea why it's got the 360 on it?
Oh, so Elijah was very wise.
No, I didn't ask about Elijah. I asked about Enoch. Do you know why Enoch lived 360 years and then walked with God in the heavens? Does 360 remind you of anything?
360? Enlighten me.
Yeah, what does it remind you of?
Oh, he said enlighten me.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought he said it reminds me. Yeah, it's what the ancient peoples typically thought a year was, right? So when Enoch lives 360 years, right, it's very, very clear that this is referring to a pre-existing solar deity. That story has been encapsulated in the Bible. And it seems like super obvious to me that that's the reason why you would have this story matching up and the walking through the heavens. It seems so obvious once you look at it that this is legend that's then been incorporated into stories over the years, which is totally how we view the Bible, right? There's a mixture of some historical stuff. A lot of it's been garbled, some stories, some explanatory myths. Doesn't it strike you that way? Maybe. Go ahead. I actually stopped talking, please.
Oh, so I'm trying to tell you that today we can still see giant footprints, things like that, like footprints of a human being that is.
Oh, what a wonderful tradition it is! Yeah, there are tons and tons of. That was something that would travel around the United States. These shows, Bigfoot and footprints and things like that. I think that is definitely a rabbit hole that we could, and it is a fantastic one. But I highly recommend for those people who are watching, if you're really interested in that kind of stuff, definitely check out and really apply some skepticism, because you have people who are motivated, to profit. They're saying, hey, you could see this, for X amount of money, or you have sightings that people have later on said, oh, this was faked. You have so many different instances of people creating these amazing, elaborate hoaxes that are just incredible watch. Actually, here in Austin, there's the Museum of the Weird. And it's like $25 to get in.
Paluxy River is in Texas, right?
Don't know.
I don't know. But again, that's an elaborate hoax. There's a dude who goes around and carves footprints, I forget which way it is, either carves dinosaur footprints around human footprints or the other way around. And then they're called, you can Google, it's called Paluxy River Man Tracks. And they're 100% fraudulent. But I will say this to Patrick, there are not giant fossils and footprint that just aren't. It would absolutely throw all of biology on its head. Take a look. If you look at any kind of reputable scientific literature, neither Eric nor I are paleontologists, so we can't speak to that. But if you look at the experts, they will tell you that those things are just they're either hoaxes or it's just not the case. And I can prove that science. I can't prove, but I can.
That the dinosaur fossils as well should be hoaxes.
No. And here's how you know that, right? Because here's how you know this. Because I'm sorry, we're talking past each other. So let me make my point. Okay. About a decade ago, well, maybe 2 decades ago now, you can Google this. Scientists discovered and it was on I believe a Pacific island, the human remains, genus Homo remains that are called Homo florensis, right? The so-called hobbit. They were humanoids in genus Homo that were about 3.5 feet tall. And it made all the popular scientific literature because they were look, hobbits were real. When there is evidence, it makes its way into the scientific literature. I can regardless of whether that overturns existing thought. We never thought there were 3-foot hominids before, and now we do because we discovered the fossils. If your giant fossils were real, they would be a part of the scientific literature, and they are not.
Unmuted. Hi, Patrick.
Okay, what's up?
Okay. That said, we do want to get to a couple more callers, but giants.
I've got to correct myself that it's Genesis 5:21 to talk about Enoch, and it's actually 365. Not 3. I said 360. It's actually 365. So it's super clear. And then the last verse is that Enoch walked faithfully with God, and then he was no more because God took him away. And if you look at the other genealogies in that Genesis 5, all the others say, Kenan lived a total of 910 years and then he died. Mahaliel lived 895 years and then he died. And Enoch is the only one who doesn't die. It's super cool. And it's so obviously a solar myth, right? Anyway. I love that story. So I got the details wrong, and I didn't want people to discount the argument based on my getting 360 for 365 wrong. So
anyway,
pedant lawyer.
We are entirely unconvinced. Take care, Patrick.
Okay, take care too. Thanks.
I don't know how long down that rabbit hole to go before it stops being useful. And the more I think about it, the more I realize, I think it stops being useful pretty quickly. It's something that I just adore. I loved going to the Museum of the Weird. It's not because I thought the stuff was real, but because somebody actually fused together a monkey skeleton to look like a mermaid. There's so much weirdness that it's wild. It's this kind of testament to human creativity.
But it's become all the more important now that you have the skeptic tools in your toolbox, because 20 years ago you had to physically fuse the skeletons and put them in the museum of that, and now you can create CAD deepfakes that are undetectable as false, and it's scary, right? And so we're in a world in which I could show you. Have you seen the Barack Obama video?
I have.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
deepfakes are scary.
It's terrifying. And the only thing we can do, that's why I loved your point with Stephen, where the only thing you can do is just be prepared to be thinking about your epistemology of how you're processing this, because you can see something that looks 100% true.
Especially if you're motivated, if you really are motivated to see it a certain way, you'll find it. It takes a lot of restraint to sit back and go, what if I'm wrong? What would it look like? And be open to it. What we talked about at the beginning of this show was, holding views tentatively. And I think that's so important. That said, I do want to take another caller. Let's talk for just a minute to Dean.
Hi, Dean.
Hey, Dean.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How's it
been
going,
a very
bro?
interesting show, to say the least.
Yeah?
For us too, Dean.
Do you believe in giants?
Do I believe in giants?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man.
Sorry, Dean's an apologist.
I believe in. It depends on what somebody would define as a giant. As a giant, 10 foot tall, 35 feet tall.
Yeah, not minute
37 feet tall, to be precise.
There you go. So between Truth Wanted and Talk Heathen, it's been a wild ride the last several shows there over at the ACA.
We don't have too much time. What do you want to talk about?
Gotcha. So what evidence would either one of you need to believe in God again?
Totally depends on the claim. So I would say that if you give me a God that has very simple characteristics to show, then you are able to show those characteristics, then I would believe it. If you...
Okay, God of the Bible.
Yeah, there's a lot there, man. I think there are tons of things that you would have to show are possible before I can determine whether or not they're probable.
And let me jump in. And by the way, I agree 100% with what Eric says, but God of the Bible doesn't help, because there are thousands of sects of Christianity. They're all reading the Bible, and they all believe that their God is the God of the Bible. Right. So I don't think that's a singular answer, right? Some people can read the Bible. No, let me say this first, and then we'll hit. Some people read the Bible and come away and go to super inclusive pro LGBTQ churches that are doing a lot of good right now. Some people read the Bible and come away as hateful monsters that think the primary message of the Bible is that sodomy is a sin, and so they're reading the exact same text. So, what do you mean by God of the Bible?
Gotcha. So, I mean Anselm's definition of God a.
But that's not the
maximally
God of the
great
Bible,
being,
right? Yeah. Now we're in the God of the philosophers, though. That's a totally different question, right?
No,
and
no.
that's
Anselm based his definition, or Anselm grounded his definition for the highest conceivable being based upon what he read in the Bible, the attributes of God.
Sure. So let's be clear. I'm not saying that Anselm's GCB is incompatible with the Bible. I'm saying that it is a subset of the Bible. So and this is direct to your question in terms of proof. Does your conception of God include heaven and hell?
Well, it would include heaven and hell, but I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm trying.
But that's not. But notice, right? But that's not.
Agree.
Hold on. You got to do that. You got to let me come in. Anselm's conception of the greatest conceivable being does not include with it a correlative obligation to believe that there is eternal torment or eternal reward. Right. So in other words, when you're doing that, and I don't think you're doing this deliberately. I believe that you were an honest interlocutor here. It's why I stopped and why I'm asking the questions. The level of proof I would need to believe in Anselm's God is different than the level of proof I would need to believe in a God that created a place of fire for burning all eternity people that don't believe in him. Does that make sense to you at least?
Right.
Okay,
no,
cool.
That makes sense to me. What I'm simply referencing is Anselm's core definition of God as far as the greatest conceivable being. That is still
right. But do you see God? But no. And this is why it's important, because I see this move a lot. You could prove, quote unquote, Anselm's greatest conceivable being, and then it would still not prove the God of the Bible. It would prove something compatible with the God of the Bible, perhaps. It would prove a subset of the God of the Bible, but you started with the God of the Bible, and Anselm doesn't get you there. Can we agree on that at least?
Sure. I'll just cool. For the sake of the conversation, I'll agree on that.
Well, I don't think this should be. No. I'm sorry. I'm a lawyer. Can't let you get away with that. This is not for the sake of the conversation. It's a different. It's Anselm's God has fewer characteristics than the God of the Bible, right?
Well, he might have fewer things that he's created with regards to heaven and hell, but that doesn't mean that his core properties are different.
Is Anselm's God jealous?
I do not know.
No. The answer to that is no.
Says about it. Okay, fair enough. So let me rephrase the question then. What would it take?
I muted myself. No wonder. I was like, dang, Dean is just talking.
I saw Eric. I saw your lips moving, and
yeah,
and I stopped because I didn't want to be talking over you, but I couldn't hear anything.
You know what? Honestly, yeah. What I was gonna say, what I was saying while I was on mute was, Dean, you're asking us what convinces us, or what would convince us, and so if you were to bring the Anselm God up. Right. Andrew said it perfectly. There are far less things that you would need to demonstrate. You would still need to demonstrate them, but there are less things needed to demonstrate that definition than the one that classically, I was taught about when I went to church. Right. And do I think that God's the same as the one that you conceive of? No. I think your definition of God is definitely different from the definition of God that was taught in my church. But if we're not going to get hung up on the little nuances, which one do you want us to talk about? Do you want us to talk about the God who is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the one who said to sacrifice Abraham's son, the one who told Moses to build a boat? Do you want to talk about that God, the God who said, I am that I am, who is described in the Old and New Testament? Is that the God you want to talk about, or do you want to talk about Anselm's God?
Okay, I'm trying to nail down and just say, okay, what we generally think about when we think about the standard definition for the God of Christianity that most people are familiar with, might have different ideas about, but most people are familiar with, what would you need as far as evidential proof, or not evidential proof, evidence to say, all right, that God exists, I'm now at least a theist?
Sure. I think you would need to show that the claims made about that God are possible, and then we can determine whether or not it's probable. So I would want to see miracles, because miracles are talked about in the Bible. I would want to see, if you're literally interpreting the Old Testament, I would want to see archaeological evidence of a lot of the claims that are made there. I would want to see bread and fishes multiply. I would want to see the Red Sea part. I would want to see, evidence that the entire world was covered in water for a great flood, or any of those things. I would want to see things that back up the claims. And then as you make the claims, then I could go, okay, there's one more piece. And as you go along with pieces, then I would be following you along with it. But I think that I would be putting the cart before the horse if you gave me 5 examples and I took those 5 examples and said, okay, I'm taking everything else. Because is there a possibility, Dean, that I could list out all of these attributes for God and one of those attributes not be correct? Right? If that's the case,
I'm sure that it's possible. Yeah.
Sure. So I mean, if you want to talk about a maximally powerful God, who is maximally, omniscient, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, yada yada yada, and I also added maximally smelly in there, right? I then you would go, well, you got most of it, but actually, I really want to talk about the smelly one. Let's address that. It's such a large set of claims that you got to go through those claims for us to.
Yeah, and building on that, you can ignore this because Eric asked a great set of questions, but the subset that I would like to focus on, Dean, would be the idea of eternal punishment and eternal reward, right? Because I gotta tell you, Eric has listed a lot of stuff that I think is, sort of in the background of like when you read the Bible, like you clearly read from the beginning of Genesis, like a God that created a flat earth with a dome on it, with stars painted on it. It almost nothing in the Bible seems to match up with reality. Maybe we could get past the evidence on that. But even if we did, I would have a hard time believing that the creator of the universe has designed a place of infinite torture for people that don't agree with him. And
I agree with you, Andrew.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't say that God's not an asshole. It's nothing that doesn't say anything about the character of the God. And in fact, God says, I am a jealous God, worship no others but me. I disagree with you, sir.
All right. Well, let's take that. But so I'd like to know from Dean. Dean, do you believe? No, because this is great. We'll get a 3-way. Dean, do you believe in hell?
I do believe in hell.
Okay. So do you believe in hell as a place of eternal conscious torment?
I do. Now, before you follow up,
go ahead.
The original question was, what would you guys need? And you were setting that out. And so I just like to follow up. I'm trying to hell.
I get it, but for me to answer that, I need to figure out what is a part of this hell claim, right? Because the more extravagant your hell is, the more evidence I'm going to need for a God that would set up such a thing, right? And Eric indicates it might be different, right? So let me ask, right? So what you're saying is, right? And let me also ask a cosmology question. We're not gonna go down the creationism rabbit trail. Do you accept the scientific age of the Earth and the universe, right? That the Earth is about 4.8 billion years old. The universe is, I think, 13.7 billion years old. Do you accept to that? If not, it's fine. I just want to know for example purposes.
No, I personally believe the account of Genesis.
Okay, so you think the Earth is
as of
6
right now?
to 10,000
As of right now,
years.
as of right
Got it,
now.
got it.
Wait,
I'm not going.
let me
Believe
finish.
me, we do not have the time left in the show to do old Earth, young Earth. It's only for my.
No,
point.
I don't want to do old Earth, young Earth. I'm just
Cool.
trying to get an answer in, and I get.
So you're saying, you're saying young Earth 10,000 on the order of 10,000 years, right?
I would say that I take the text as literal, but I also believe that is in the classification of a miracle as well.
Got it. That's not important.
No.
Here's what I want to say to you.
That's fine.
So is it your belief? First, is it your belief that Eric and I as atheists are going to hell?
As much as I love you guys, yeah.
Got it. So now,
I mean, I would have to be consistent.
I
I say that I believe in hell, and I have to be consistent on that.
Good.
But I'd
Excellent.
really like to get back to my follow-up question.
We don't have time for follow-up this time.
I got to figure out the hell first. So I'm sorry. What, Eric? What did you say? Do I need to stop?
Yeah, we're running a little late. Dean, we need to have more conversation. It doesn't just. You've got my
Can I leave him with the one thing?
Yeah.
Then? All right. So Dean, I just want to ask: it is your belief Eric and I go to hell, and then let's say Eric and I spend 1,000,000 years in hell. Okay, that is 10,000 times the age of the universe as you believe it. Right? No, that'd be 1 billion years. Fine. We spend 1 billion years in hell. We spend 10,000 universes worth of time in hell for the 80 or 90 years that we practiced unbelief on this earth. And at no point does your God look down and go, 1 billion years in the lake of fire is okay for Eric, right? Like it's time to let him out now. It's time to let Andrew out. 1 billion years is okay for not being convinced of the existence. Cool.
Can I get one follow-up in, and it's very short, and there's a lot to the question that you've raised, or the statement that you've raised. I'll just say this.
We can take it off.
I believe that that's justified, but there's more to it than just me saying it's justified. And if you give me your contact info, email or something like that, love to get in contact with you and talk to you about it.
Cool. All right. That said, Dean, it's good hearing from you, man. Take it easy.
Hey, you too. All right. Bye.
Sorry.
That's okay. Dean actually is an interesting character. He's an apologist who has come to Austin and actually slept on my couch.
Oh, nice.
I had him on my personal channel for a discussion, and we're planning on a debate. Actually, I think in February of next year, in Tennessee. So
excellent,
fun, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got more callers, and I also want to go to Discord and talk to people. So before we do that, I do have a couple things to say. Number one, our crew is amazing.
Yeah, they are.
They have been working so hard to get all of our programs out. I see just them rotating through the shows. Look at that. That is what's going on in the back at the ACA. No one is there because they can't be. They're all working remotely from home, and you actually have them. It's incredible. They're operating those things remotely from home so that they can make this happen with a pretty significant delay. And we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much to our crew. Andrew, dude, I've wanted since the beginning of this show to have you on.
But do you regret it now is the question.
No, I didn't talk as much as I normally do, and that probably made the show better. But I've got to say, man, I love your podcast, Opening Arguments. If anybody hasn't checked it out, they absolutely should. I am a fan, and I will continue to be a fan, and I hope to have you back on Talk Heathen soon.
Anytime. I am a fan of yours, and so anybody who's joining us late, the reason I'm here today is because I was listening last week and said and sent you a text message. I was like, I'm so I love what you're doing, and so many times in this, you took the words out of my mouth. So
good
work, man.
Love it, brother. Love it. Actually, let's get things started. So I know you listen as a podcast, but we do love rings. Let's see if I can get it. Ready?
All right.
Oh,
beautiful. That is a chef kiss.
Mwah. That is with a delay. That is, this signal got sent to the ACA, which got sent remotely over to Mark, who's in a different part of Texas. And that just lined up beautiful. Mark, mwah, beautiful. So it's not just to those who believe and don't believe. We're going through a pretty serious time right now. And I just want to say, please be safe. Practice social distancing. Wash your hands. We want to be together as we get through this. And the only way we're going to do it is if we can, as a society, work together. And, for those of you who are on the front lines, who are in essential service, those of you in the medical field who are going through hell right now, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. We sincerely, truly appreciate it. I actually recently saw a episode that my friend Holy Kool-Aid put out. He had someone who was, I believe, on the National Advisory Committee for the CDC and was one of the creators of the rotavirus. Not the vaccine for the rotavirus. It can make you wear your drink there. And they talk a lot
coffee on my shirt.
So I've been sending that link out to family, but if you haven't checked it out, that is definitely a good video to watch. It's got a lot of good information from an expert. But for those of you who don't believe,
we don't hate you.
No. For those of you who don't believe, this is your community.
Yeah.
Andrew's part of it. We're really, really happy to have it. We're really happy to have you. And just like that gentleman who called in earlier, who wondered, can you still be Jewish? Yes, you can. There are a lot of cultural Jews, and there are a lot of Jewish atheists. And you don't need to forego your culture. You don't need to stop doing those things that you love, and celebrating the people that you love because you think that it's owned by religion. It's the same reason why so many people think, charity and kindness, helping the homeless, that kind of stuff, that's all within the domain of the church. And that's bullshit. We need to show that community is something that is all of ours. It's not just belonging to the church. I mean, I looked in the live chat and right at the beginning, people were saying, "Oh, time for atheist church," right? It's so deeply ingrained, the idea that community is owned by religion. And it's time we stop that. And it's time we show that we can do better without God and that we can solve human problems with human hands.
And that's a big shout out to everybody who is considered an essential worker right now. And I think we are realizing just how important the cashiers and baggers at the grocery store are right now, who are, literally putting themselves on the front line, the fast food drive-through, the chefs and cooks and prep cooks and people who clean the kitchens and, people that,
for pennies who are getting paid less, often less than what it takes to survive.
Yep. And our society would have crumbled to a halt without this. So thank you sincerely for that. And, maybe we refer to you as essential workers from here on out.
That said, we got a lot of love rings going out. So that was for everyone. That was for those who don't believe. But for those of you who do believe, we don't hate you.
We don't hate you. We just think you're wrong.
See you next week. Andrew, thank you so much, man.
Oh, man.
Are we moving to the Discord?
I jumped the gun. I was so nervous about getting the catchphrase right.
You're great. Love it. I love it. We're good.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.